So here's something that I want to start this. So we're talking about way forward, and I really have come to the understanding that first of all, African Americans or Africans, and then of course the idea of Eastern Europeans or European Western Europeans um, or Asian Americans or Latinx Americans or any version of American have no intention of disintegrating the United States. I think I'd like to make that point very important because the narratives that are coming out of the administration is very troubling, and it seems like it's a narrative of violence all of the time, and we don't have that intention. I don't think any African American protesting out there is interested in disintegrating America. In fact, African Americans are the precursors of law and order. They were always law and order abiding from slave days up until this moment. So that needs to get out first. That's the first things that we need to understand if we're going to even get on the tables together. So that means that African Americans have always been ready to talk. Now, the second part of that is that our European American brothers and sisters have always said they are listening, but for 400 years, they have been pretending to listen to African Americans. And that's why you have had racist laws in systems, that's what we call systemic racism, that have pervaded for 400 years and ended up in the death of George Floyd. And it did because many of these guys, like sleeper cells, activated once they see a black person, know that there's no accountability for it. No accountability. This is the first time that there is a huge global movement to create this accountability. So where do we go? What do we do? What is the right thing to do? I have already suggested that the first thing that needs to happen is for our European African American brothers to start their own civil rights. They need to start teaching each other. African Americans we've done this. We've shown them what to do. We are the conscience of America. So European Americans need to start their own civil rights movement and start weaning each other of this appetite for violence. That's the first thing they got to do. That's the only way that they're going to begin to come closer to even talking about, can we reconcile? Now, the interesting part of this is that their children, and I was very happy to see a lot of European American children out there, little kids, with signs Black Lives Matter all across America and across the globe, who are actually now activists for this dynamic change. So that's the very first thing. The second thing is the apology. I've been talking about this. Every time I say this, a lot of European Americans think, oh my God, these people are going to make us pay them trillions of dollars for all the stuff that we owe them. Well, apology is beyond that. Apology is actually recognizing that you have done something to hurt people for hundreds of years. Apology, I have maintained, is courage. So European Americans have to be courageous to come out and say, hey, we are sorry. To Native Americans first, to African Americans, to women, and to all other groups that have been brutalized under the systemic systems of racism. Once you do that, then you can start talking about changing all of these systemic laws. If you don't do that, it would be the same story all over again. And like I said, it might already have been a done deal that because people are unwilling to accept and recognize that they can be equal to others, they already are maneuvering. Fraternal order of police, the police system, which should not have such powers in the United States, have usurped total power. And they're now manipulating the system so that they can continue to exist. And we're even afraid that they would still continue business as usual. They're just winning right now, all the protesters. But to get to any kind of stance before we start talking reconciliation and conflict transformation, apologies, sincere apologies. No one is talking about reparations yet, just apologies. Do it, sincerely, and then we can ask the question, where do we go from here?